Hey, thank you to all of you for joining us for another update on Milwaukee County's ongoing recovery response efforts following the extreme storms and a devastating flood. And so with that in mind, I am joined by Cassandra Liebel, our Director of Office of Emergency Management, as well as Dr. Ben Weston, Chief Health Policy Advisor for Milwaukee County. Director Liebel will provide you all an update on OEM emergency response efforts and the anticipated arrival of FEMA in Milwaukee County. And Dr. Weston will provide guidance relating to flood-related health impacts and what residents to not only know, but what they should do to stay healthy in the upcoming weeks. And so by this point, I think we all have witnessed the devastation all across our entire region. And I know that this has been an incredibly difficult and tough time for many of our residents. Personally, I had the opportunity to join damage assessment teams in the community last week and spoke directly with residents that have been impacted by this flood. I've heard their stories, I've seen the challenges, and I've received their calls for help as well. But I've also seen the resilience in action through our neighbors helping out one another. That is the spirit of service that defines us right here within Milwaukee County. We are doing everything that we can to not only provide support, but to provide resources and the information needed to help the public navigate these times. It's going to take a lot of hard work, collaboration, time, as well as partnership to help address the damage that has been caused. And that's what Milwaukee County government is committed to doing, not only in the upcoming weeks, but also in the months ahead. Our emergency management personnel have completed the initial damage assessment that is required by FEMA, but municipal emergency efforts and response teams continue to assess the flood damage that we've seen at homes and businesses throughout our jurisdiction. And as we move forward, collaboration with both our state and federal partners and our local officials will continue to remain key. Just yesterday, I'm pleased to see that the entire Wisconsin's congressional delegation made a bipartisan plea to the Trump administration for federal assistance. It is advocacy efforts like this that stand to benefit our recovery efforts. Director Liebel will share more about her staff, what her staff is doing, working directly with Wisconsin Emergency Management in preparation for the anticipated arrival of FEMA, which will possibly happen as early tomorrow. But first, I'd like to reiterate some key information that affected individuals should know as we continue to move forward. As damage assessments continue and FEMA makes their way throughout southeastern Wisconsin, I want to remind our residents to be aware of any suspicious activity, particularly from scammers. Anyone showing up to your home that's looking to assess damage will introduce themselves and will provide official credentials. They will ask for information like your social security number and bank information, nor will they ask you to pay them. And so for your own safety, always check and verify IDs or badges before allowing anyone inside and sharing any personal information that you have. And if you are unsure or uncomfortable, keep your door closed and contact local authorities. You can also report instances of suspected fraud by calling 866-223-0814. I'm going to repeat that number. You can call 866-223-0814 to report any suspected fraud, or you can email stopfemafraud@fema.dhs.gov. Again, stopfemafraud@fema.dhs.gov. Unfortunately, scammers often take advantage of our most vulnerable individuals during a time of crisis, and so we want everyone out there to continue to stay vigilant. Now, in the process of 211, to date, over 12,000 damage reports in Milwaukee County have been reported to 211. Residents with flood damage are encouraged to continue reporting that damage to 211 or utilizing the online damage report form. This will allow you to be added to a database used by local organizations who can help those impacted by flood damage. It also helps to ensure eligibility for future financial assistance if and when it becomes available, and to provide vital data to local response efforts. And so to submit a report, residents can call 211 and again submit that online. Some people may still be asking, why am I still being asked to call 211? But in addition to reporting that damage, 211 can assist those seeking any additional resources like cleanup kits, food pantries, social services, and much more. And if you need recovery assistance and do not know where to go, 211 staff is here to help. And one point that I would like to make myself, if your property is damaged, do not forget to file a flood insurance claim with your insurance company, even if you are unsure if your loss is covered or it exceeds the policy deductible. So please file your flood insurance. But in addition, be sure to save receipts for any services that you secured or any estimates for repairs, even if you end up deferring that work. That documentation will be crucial once federal assistance becomes available. If you're seeking out cleaning kits, organizations such as the Red Cross, Salvation Army, and some public health departments have free kits that are available. These kits are designed to help people begin that cleanup process safely and effectively, and include supplies like cleaning products, rubber gloves, face masks, garbage bags, and more. And again, 211 is a great resource to help you find access to these cleanup kits near you. A couple other updates for Milwaukee County. The Milwaukee County Department of Transportation is assisting municipalities to clear flood damage at locations across the county. If you still need garbage or debris picked up or removed, please call your municipal government to coordinate that request. The county's homeless outreach team remains focused on engaging people at encampments that are located close to rising water and river locations given this week's additional rainstorms. And Milwaukee County staff is also continuing to survey damage inflicted on our facilities and assets, and we will report out any updates that become available. Now, people in our community may be asking, how can I help during the relief and the recovery efforts? An affiliation of organizations in Milwaukee County that want to support the community through volunteerism is extremely encouraged, and they can register with Crisis Cleanup. This is a program that dispatches small groups of volunteers to survivors who need some relief, and their goal is to provide free help to those who are in need, ensuring more organized and efficient cleanup process. Organizations must have a physical presence in the area, the ability to perform physical remediation tasks such as muckouts and debris removal, and organizational capacity to provide some reliable work. Impact 211 is also looking for volunteers to assist with uploading information from damage reports into the crisis cleanup so those homes can be matched with organizations to be deployed to help out those residents. More volunteers and more donation opportunities, as well as resources and updated information, can be found on Milwaukee County's flood resource webpage. That website is county.milwaukee.gov 2025 flood resources. Again, county.milwaukee.gov/2025 flood resources. And I want to continue to strongly encourage residents to also visit that website to access that important information, those resources, and the guidance that we are not only sharing today, but throughout the past couple of weeks. And a couple additional thoughts before I pass it over to Director Liebel. First, I'm going to continue to ask all of our residents for additional patience as we continue to respond to this evolving situation. The road to recovery, this will take some time, but we will keep doing everything that we can and everything in our power to ensure that the public stays not only updated, but also informed. And while this process may feel slow, officials have shared that Milwaukee County is ahead of schedule in comparison to average response times during emergencies. So I just want to say thank you for your patience as we continue to do this work through the required process to get federal assistance. And second, I remain deeply grateful to our emergency management personnel, to our public health responders, first responders, those entire teams who have been working tireless day in and day out to assess the damage throughout Milwaukee County, sharing the vital information our residents rely on, and really connecting our residents to the necessary resources that they need to help navigate these challenging times. If you see a first responder out in the field, please go out and thank them. They have been working extremely hard, and we need them to know that we appreciate everything that they're doing throughout these recovery efforts. And then lastly, we have to continue to support one another. It's going to take us leaning on neighbors, leaning on our community members to make sure that we can get through this crisis together. And so simply, we need you to check on your loved ones. You need to check on your neighbors, again, strangers, to make sure that we're doing everything that we can. Because we are strong. We are a resilient community. That's who we are as Milwaukee County, and there's no doubt in my mind that we'll get through this. And so I just want to say thank you again for this opportunity to address the residents to provide this update. And now I'm going to turn it over to Director Liebel, the Director of our Office of Emergency Management.
Thank you, sir. Again, I'm Cassandra Liebel, Director of our Office of Emergency Management, and I want to start by saying thank you all for keeping this information at the front of mind for everyone and elevating the messaging from credible sources. Since the severe storm and flooding on August 9th and 10th occurred, Milwaukee County OEM has been in full response throughout the county. County Executive Crowley, as we know, declared a state of emergency, and our governor as well instituted the statewide declaration. And these declarations allow government officials to take additional steps to protect the public, coordinate resources more effectively, and if necessary, request additional funding and support from our state and federal partners. Since the flooding, our team have been working around the clock with Wisconsin Emergency Management, local municipal partners, and emergency personnel from across the state to assess damage to our homes and our communities. To date, preliminary assessments have been conducted on 3,434 homes. At approximately 53% of those homes have been classified as either major damage or being destroyed. But it is important to note that these numbers are preliminary and will need to be verified by FEMA during their upcoming visit. This information has been compiled and submitted to WIM and has been shared with FEMA for their upcoming visit, for them to prepare for their assessments. In regards to the FEMA visit coming up, we anticipate FEMA being in the area tomorrow and starting to coordinate their response within the communities, not only Milwaukee County, but several counties throughout the state. Preliminary damage assessments this week, probably into the weekend, but their role is to verify the damage that is reported in our assessments and determine whether federal assistance will be warranted. It is important to understand that FEMA's visit is not a distribution of funds. They are not coming to provide money to homeowners on this Thursday, but they will be coming to make their assessments. And if your home is not assessed during this visit, do not be concerned. It does not mean that you won't be eligible for assistance at a later date. At this point, a federal disaster declaration has not been made. Following the FEMA visit, the information collected will be reviewed, and FEMA will make recommendations regarding federal assistance. If the criteria are met, a disaster declaration must be approved by the President. And once that happens, individuals and businesses will be able to apply to FEMA assistance. That information will be forthcoming on that process. What residents can do about FEMA assistance, you've already heard the county executive talk about documenting, recording, taking photos and videos, but the individual assistance is designed to help people jumpstart their recovery. But we want to be realistic in knowing that this is not going to make us whole. It is for us to get back into our functions prior to this event. So repairs will not be fully restoring our homes, but get us to pre-flood conditions. If federal assistance is authorized, Milwaukee County OEM will provide clear step-by-step guidance on how residents can apply and put that information out through credible sources. We will ensure that that information is widely shared. Again, we talked about the websites that are available. But in closing, our emergency management team, along with our municipal partners and state partners and volunteers, remain fully engaged. Our priority continues to be protecting lives, supporting residents who have been affected, and ensuring the recovery of resources and mobilizing as quickly as possible. We encourage everyone to report any flood-related damages, stay alert to official county communications, and follow safety guidance as recovery continues to come. At this time, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Weston so he can talk about some of those health risks that individuals may need to be aware of and continue to monitor.
Thank you, Director Liebel. Good afternoon. Now, as the water goes back and we see our neighborhoods start to look like they're returning to normal, it's easy to feel like this situation is behind us. But one of the most serious health risks can be hiding in plain sight, and we don't even see it, and it grows worse over time. Now, that risk is mold. And I'll tell you, I've seen firsthand how mold and flood exposure can affect folks, not just in the moment, but in the weeks and months and even years following these kind of events. Now, mold is often invisible at first, but under the right conditions, that's warmth, moisture, darkness, it begins to grow even in the first 24 to 48 hours after the water comes. And once it takes hold, it spreads fast. It turns walls, carpets, and furniture into long-term hazards. And that's why these early days of recovery are so important. What we do now will determine whether our homes are safe, not just this week, but months or years from now. So how do we prevent mold from taking hold? Think of it in 3 steps. So first, we need to know where mold grows. It thrives in things like carpet, drywall, insulation, cardboard, wood, and furniture. Really anything that's porous and the water can get in gives mold that opportunity and that spot to grow. So even if something feels dry, pull it back, take a look. That hidden moisture inside or behind can certainly fuel mold growth. Now second, you want to act quick to dry it and ventilate the area. And this is really the most crucial step. Open windows, open doors, run fans and dehumidifiers, pump out any standing water that remains, even cutting away drywall and insulation if it's wet and affected, removing carpets and the pads underneath and the flooring that was submerged. The goal is really to dry every single surface completely as soon as you possibly can. And then number 3, clean safely. We talked about this before, but scrub hard surfaces with detergent and water. Again, any porous items, so we're talking drywall, ceiling tiles, carpeting, mattresses, really unless you can put it through the laundry machine, often these items can't be saved and need to be discarded. And remember to keep yourself safe while you're cleaning. So that means gloves, it means boots. If you can smell it or if you're indoors, it means wearing a mask, ideally an N95 mask. And as an aside, while you're cleaning all this stuff, don't ever mix bleach and ammonia. We see this every time there's some sort of event like this and people need to clean. That can cause toxic fumes and lead to other health issues and 911 calls as well. So why does this all matter so much? Mold isn't just about the damage it does to your property, it's about the damage it does to your health in the short and long term. Mold can cause coughing, it can cause wheezing, it can cause asthma attacks, it can trigger allergies, it can irritate your eyes, your nose, your throat. And for children and older adults and folks with chronic lung conditions or weakened immune system, the risks are even greater. And it's not just these short-term risks, but mold exposure long-term can cause cardiac and lung issues as well. Now lastly, it's important to remember that floodwater also carries sewage and it can carry contaminants, which can spread bacteria and viruses, causing all sorts of other skin, respiratory, and digestive issues. So really, if floodwater touches it, you want to either disinfect it if you can, or discard it. So remember those 3 steps. Know where the mold grows, act quickly to remove the mold, and stay safe while you're removing it. Now, this may feel like a small step in the middle of a much bigger disaster, but these are critical steps to make sure that when you get your basements cleaned, when you get your house back in order, it's not continuing to affect your family's health now and into the future. We've already seen incredible resilience in these storms, so let's keep these efforts moving forward as we work to restore what has been lost and hopefully emerge stronger than before. Thank you very much.
Again, as we end, we want to ask all of our residents to continue to have patience. We will see FEMA doing their assessment soon. I want to thank Dr. Liebel and Dr. Weston for their work, but all of the work of the entire community, our first responders and emergency management personnel for all the work that they have been doing to respond. With that, we'll take any questions folks may have.
Can you walk us through the FEMA visit tomorrow? How many people are coming? What exactly they will be doing?
Sure. We're preparing for anywhere between 40 to 60 FEMA personnel coming. They will determine that number as needed. And initially, they're just coming to design their teams that are going to be deployed to the area. So, like I said, it's not only Milwaukee, but there are other counties, so they're breaking up those teams to go out into the community. And basically, they're taking the preliminary information that we've provided, and they're going to make spot checks throughout the area to just verify the information that we have submitted meets their criteria, and then seeing if we meet the threshold for damage control.
Randomly picking the same areas that you guys have already been through?
They are currently doing what we're calling a virtual review. So they are looking at some of the properties that we've put forward and seeing if they meet criteria. If they meet criteria from that virtual, they may not need to visit those locations. So that's why I want to reiterate to people that if you don't see them, that doesn't mean that they're not monitoring, but they're trying to be as efficient as possible so we can get these resources released as quickly as possible. So they may not be door to door to every location that has called into 211.
As far as the spot checks, locations, do they pick, do you suggest, how is that gonna play out? And are they looking at the largest dollar amount properties or small? Are they looking at houses as well?
Yes, what we at the county level are trying to designate the most damage. So we're, like I said, some of these properties are listed as destroyed, some are listed as severely damaged, major, and we're trying to point them to those areas so that they can make those assessments basically to get the highest values. So we are trying to design the best, most efficient route for them to take place. So they're looking at us as the subject matter experts for our area to point them in those directions, but we're trying to do a representative across all communities.
What can people do if they've been impacted by the flooding and maybe they're not home during the day or they have to live somewhere else? Is there something they could do if they miss the drop-by from FEMA?
They do not have to be available. So they may, like I said, FEMA may do a drive-by and not knock on the door at all. They can make the assessment from what they see from the external. So that is not something that they need to be concerned with.
Give me a picture of sort of the timeline we are in of this before we become eligible for federal aid. I know that Executive Crowley said that we're kind of ahead of the ball, but can you just kind of paint a timeline? I don't know who would be able to answer that.
Yeah, we are. What we've done is been able to compile a significant amount of data very quickly. So that pulled the levers for them to come that much quicker. So normally this is, on average about a 14-day situation where obviously we know where we're at. So we're a little bit ahead of the time for that. And as they're coming out, like I said, we're anticipating them here tomorrow, and then they're going to be here probably as long as they need to, but we've kind of put a window out until like next week, early next week. And then once they complete what they need to do, they'll take that back, and then the timeline is in their hands. But they basically need to verify what we have proposed as our preliminary assessment, and then once they make that determination that we've met the criteria, they will be making their recommendation up federally.
If everything goes smooth, everything goes great, how long will it be until there's federal funding going into the city?
That I do not know. That's kind of dependent upon their timeline.
When you said 14-day average, what was that process? Because I know in 2008, President Bush declared the disaster from flooding 9 days after the flooding. We're now on day 10 right now.
Some of that has to do with just the amount of information that we're able to get to them. So we were able to get information to them very quickly. And you think about some of the situations, like we talk about some of the major incidents, if they predetermine that there's going to be a need, like we know there's a high risk, some things we know that we can predict, like hurricane season, we know that something's coming, they can preload some of the areas that they think they're going to have damage so they can move that process through. But most times these disasters happen, they're emergencies because they're unexpected. So that is where we kind of have that timeline jump.
And I say you're determining different locations. I mean, obviously these floods affected many places in Milwaukee, Waukesha, Washington County. Are there certain neighborhoods that you already are looking at, or that you know that you're going to target first?
I wouldn't say that there's particular neighborhoods. We are looking at communities that have been impacted. We know Milwaukee has significant impact. West Dallas, we've seen the news articles about that. Tulsa as well, but throughout Milwaukee County, there's impacted. So it's not that if we don't come to a particular community, that community isn't eligible for damage.
2 more questions.
Can you give us the amount of public money, basically, that this has caused, and then the amount for private as well?
The challenge there is focusing on getting the data, and we're not making the necessary assessments. We know from a public perspective, because we have our own assessments internally, we know publicly from the public infrastructure, we're in the 34 million range for Milwaukee County. But for the residentials, any number would be speculative at this time because we don't have the opportunity to get into these homes and have the assessments in place. So we don't have a number at this time.
We've seen other counties give
As far as
private.
the National Guard, where are they? I know the governor said they could be on standby, but they haven't really been on the ground. What's going on with the National Guard? Why aren't they helping?
As it is right now, the National Guard is aware of the situation, and if they're absolutely available if we have a need for them to come in, but we have to really be cognizant of where they can, under law, be activated and things that they can do. They can't go into people's private homes and things like that. So some of the needs that we have currently can't be met by National Guard because of just the way that our government has that division of our private properties.
Last question.
We've seen private numbers from other counties. Why not in Milwaukee County?
like I said, I don't want to give false narrative. And so I don't have, it would be speculative at best to give that information. It
Is
would
that
just,
part of, a quick follow-up if I can, John, is that part of the FEMA declaration, that money threshold for private?
no, it is not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.